Hey there, pre-algebra students. I am actually excited about this quiz because I really think you're going to do great at it because you guys are awesome. You're watching what you're supposed to be watching. So we're going to look forward to this being a great quiz, okay? All right, you can do this. You really can. And I'm praying for you guys, and I love you so much, and I can't wait till we get to be back together. But for now, let's just go over this. I'm not going to make this super long or drawn out, just a couple of examples of each type of thing you can expect. From section 8.4, if you remember, that was supposed to be when you solved for a given domain. So let's just go through real quick and figure that out. And also the other thing in that was to find the values if you are given functions. So we'll just take a look at those two examples and see how we do with them. Okay, so first of all, solving for a given domain. So for example, if you have x, so y equals 2x minus 7. What this really means, since you're given this domain, it means that you're figuring out what y value goes with each x value. So for example, the first one, x is negative 2. So we would have y equals 2 times negative 2 minus 7. So negative 4 minus 7. Keep change. Negative 11. The next value that we have in your list is 0. You don't even have to think about it or pick them. So then we would go y equals 2 times 0 minus 7. So 0 minus 7 is negative 7. There's your negative 7. And then 1. And we're trying to take y equals 2 times 1 minus 7, which gives you 2 minus 7, which would give you negative 5. And then finally your last one, 5, would give you 2 times 5 minus 7, 10 minus 7, which equals 3. And just from knowing how you think, the biggest deal for you guys is going to be careful with your negatives. Okay, be careful if you have to do subtracting a negative or something like that. Now the way that you'll write your answer, the way that I want you to type it in would be the ordered pairs. So negative 2, negative 11, comma 0, negative 7, and then 1, negative 5, and then 5, 3. And I ran out of space here, but you would just type that in a nice straight line. Okay, so that would be one type of thing you could do. There'll be a couple of examples on that for you to do. To find the right y value to go with the right x value, just like you did. Just you're given the domain for that. Then the other part, find the values of the given functions. This one's a little bit even easier. So here, if you have the f function, and you're supposed to be finding the value of f of 2, that just means you take this right here and do 3 times 2, if you remember, minus 5. So 3 times 2 is 6 minus 5, which gives you 1. So your answer to this question would be 1. And once again, this is review. So g of negative 3, you have to use the g function right here. So that would equal negative 3 plus 8, which would give you 5. So your answer to this question would be a 5. Okay? So you do all those things, find your answer, and you're done. Moving right along. Okay, let's put this one down. and we're going to take a look then at graphs. Now that section I just had you do a couple of graphs. You're not actually going to make a graph. You'll have a graph, and then you need to be able to read it. So just to go over something like that. So we have this graph here. This is number of days versus hours on social media. So every day the person is spending their time spending a certain number of hours on social media. After one day, Agnes had spent 5 hours on social media. If she continues at this rate, how many hours after 7 days? And some of you are, well, a lot of you, all of you probably are smart enough to just not even have to use a graph for that. But as far as if you're reading the graph and trying to find the values, you would go to day 7 and go up and then come across to find out how many hours. It's between 30 and 40, so that would be 35 hours on that. Okay, so let me come to this. It's easier to write on that. So for the first answer, because you would come up the 7 and across here, this would be 35 hours that Agnes would have spent on social media after 7 days. Now the second question is actually asking almost the same thing. It's just using different words to ask it. In May, her pattern was the same. Use the graph to determine how many hours she was on social media after 4 days in May. Okay, it doesn't really matter when the thing happened. It's still asking you about 4 days, so you would go to 4 days. You would read across on the graph and say she spent 20 hours. So that's really all you have to do as far as that section where it said make a graph. Okay, this is just the very beginning stages of things. So this is where we are on that. So just the ability to read the graph. Okay, let me get this one. Okay, bye-bye on this one. Now we go to this. From section 8.6, we talked about a slope, and there were two different ways that we could find a slope. Okay, we could find a slope either by looking at the graph, or we could find it from 2 points. So I want to just do a quick example of both of those. When you are looking to do it from a graph, okay, what you need to do, remember you need to find 2 points on the graph and then count the rise over the run. Okay, so I'm going to find any 2 points. Don't pick ones that are like in the middles. Pick ones that go right through the corners. The easiest way to do it actually when you do this is you pick one that's at one corner and then you keep going until you find the next one that's at a nice spot on the corners. So we have this right here. Okay, so right there in the corners. So what we have here, in order to get from here to here for the slope, okay, we count how far up and then how far over, the rise over the run. So we go up 1 and we go right 2. So our slope equals 1/2 for this one. Okay, so you might, if you had picked 2 points that were not right next to each other, you might have to reduce a fraction or something like that. But the best thing is to find 1 point in the corner. It's right in the exact corner, and then go until you find the next one. Then you won't even have any fractions to reduce. Okay, so you start at 1, you go right to the next one, and our slope here now this one's a negative slope. Remember, the ones that tilt up are positive. This is negative, so you're counting down and over. So I go down 1, 2, 3 blocks down and 1, 2 blocks over. Down 3, over 2. And that's your slope. Okay, we have the special ones. The horizontal ones, the slope equals 0, if you remember from our talk. And the vertical one, this way, the slope is undefined. Or you could write no slope, but I prefer undefined. Okay, so vertical undefined, horizontal 0. The others that are tilted, you have to count the rise over the run. Okay, just to remind you. Okay, there's that. Get rid of this one. And then we have find the slope through each pair of points. This is the one where you had the formula. Okay, and the slope formula equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if you recall, when you have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, your first step was to label them. x1, y1, x2, y2. Then use your formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You put the numbers right in there. 8 minus 5. 4 minus negative 2. Don't forget that when you subtract, you add the opposite, or keep change as some of you like to do. 8 plus negative 5 is 3. 4 plus 2 is 6. Reduce any fraction that you need to. Numerator, denominator, divisible by 3, we get a half. Okay, same thing here. x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2, negative 2, minus y1, 5, x2, 3, x1, 3. Keep change. Negative 7 over 0. And you do have to, if you have something like this, you need to write the word undefined or no slope. If you leave it like this, you can't have all the points because you have to actually know what that slope means. So our slope here is undefined. If you had a 0 in the numerator instead of the denominator, you would need to reduce it to just plain 0. So just so that you remember that. All right, so that's it. I don't want to take too long today. I know you've got studying to do, and you can go back over any notes that you may have, and then before the end of the day, I'll send that out so that you're ready to do it whenever you feel like it tomorrow, and put it into the submission form, and then you'll be done with that. All right, God bless you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.